Dorji Dalai, all the viewers, welcome to Tibet House, Cultural Center of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, New Delhi. I'm Geshe Dorji Damdul, the director of Tibet House since 2011. And for your information, Tibet House was established in 1965 by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, supported by the Indian government, and it was inaugurated then. And the purpose for the establishment of Tibet House is to disseminate the rich culture of Tibet after Tibet was invaded by the Communist Chinese in 1949, and eventually leading to His Holiness the Dalai Lama and great mass of Tibetans taking refuge, taking asylum in India in 1959. As indicated before, the purpose for establishing Tibet House is to disseminate the great civilization, the culture of Tibet and the Tibetan people to the world. New Delhi being the capital city of the biggest democratic country in the world, India, it is a very important place where the Tibetan culture and the Tibetan tradition can be shared with other fellow citizens of the world. And what is Tibetan culture? What is Tibetan tradition? So the culture and tradition is, ideally speaking, culture is a system to bring about a greater harmony, peace, and prosperity. Likewise, mental maturation and material maturation, material development. And primarily, we see that in this world, the material development is being taken care of by the modern science. For example, look at all these now the very sophisticated internet services, all the social media and so forth. Meanwhile, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, always during his public addresses, when asked by the experts, specialists from the different areas, where are we going wrong? Modern education, while it is meant to bring about greater peace and happiness for the humanity, on the contrary, while the modern education is climbing to such a zenith of advancement, the peace of the world is declining. Where are we going wrong? His Holiness, without any second thought, would say it's because of the lack of the system to promote our basic human values, to teach the heart. This is a problem. So, going back to the point, what is the culture and tradition of Tibet? It's the culture of love. It's the culture of compassion, on the basis of understanding the wisdom of interdependency, so which Tibet inherited from the Indians of the past. Back in 7th century AD, the Tibetan king, Songtsen Gampo, he took a great initiative to send one of the brightest ministers to Mesopotamia, to India, to learn Hindi, Sanskrit, and Buddhist philosophy, and on that basis to create Tibetan scripts. And he succeeded in that Not only he created Tibetan scripts, he also created the Tibetan the alphabets, all the alphabets, and the whole language with the script was invented at that time. And then 8th century AD, that great Tibetan king, Chisung Dezen, invited the great Indian master, Bodhisattva Chandrarakshita, and incredibly kind Guru Padmasambhava to Tibet to establish this great culture of compassion and the wisdom of dependent origination as promulgated by Lord Buddha Shakyamuni to Tibet. So this was what Tibet inherited from Nalanda. So in other words, the Nalanda's Buddhist tradition, this is the Tibetan culture. So with this in mind, His Holiness, today, His Holiness has 4 main commitments in his life, also referred to as the four pillars of his life. And Tibet House here, Tibet House Delhi, is dedicated to accomplish a part of the 4 pillars of His Holiness the Dalai Lama for the welfare of the humanity, for the welfare of the whole world, the ecology plus the inhabitants. So, Tibet House, what do we have, what do we do? Oftentimes, my friends, when they come to know Tibet House, they would ask, what kind of programs do we run? So basically, is to educate the heart and the brain both for the people across the traditions, across the different religions, across the genders, ethnicities, and so forth. So with this in mind, Tibet House, we have, on the one hand, we have, say, very rich academic programs, which since my predecessor, Venerable Damdul Geshe, he started these academic programs then, and then 2016, His Holiness the Dalai Lama blessed Tibet House with the launch of the Nalanda Masters Program. 5 years Nalanda Masters Program, launched in Tegra Stadium here in Delhi, attended to by about like 10,000 audience. So that was so auspicious. That was the launch was done then. And then the next year, Nalanda diploma course was launched by the late Shrimati Dr. Kapila Vazanji, who was the vice chairperson of Tibet House governing body. And following that, this year we're going to launch the Nalanda certificate course, 2 months course. So we have a very rich academic studies and attended to by people from all over the world. And in total, thus far, the last 5 years, we had about from 2,000 to 3,000 students for this. And the richness, the uniqueness of this program is that what in the big monastic universities, like the Sera, Debung, Ganden, and also from across the traditions, like Sakya, Kaiku, Nyingma, academic institutions. So whatever they study there, these are all taught here and directly in English, and where the people really don't have to worry about the cost. Is very subsidized, greatly subsidized, and particularly for the students and the monastics, like 75% being subsidized, and so that way we see that anybody, whether or not the person has, say, the financial backing or not, they're all eligible for this course. So this is a great platform created because of the blessings of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the support of the Indian government financially. Then alongside the Tibet House, we also started since 2012. We started a Tibetan language course. Before that, during my predecessor, he also started Tibetan language course here, and there was a gap for a few years. Then 2012, we resumed it, and initially the number of the students, mainly Indians, the number was like 10, 12. Now there's the sudden explosion in the number of the students, and again coming from across the world, meaning that it is provided due to the COVID the last 2 years is happening online, and the number of students just exploded. So now we have about like 70 students to like 72 or like 100 students altogether. And that's a great opportunity. Again, it's so subsidized for the people to learn Tibetan language. It's for 4 months. It's a 4-month course. Alongside, we also organize the conferences, international conferences and national conferences. Conferences primarily on the topics, comparative topics between quantum mechanics and Buddhist philosophy of ultimate reality. In other words, ontological reality from the quantum mechanics point of view and Buddhist philosophy point of view. And likewise, conferences on neuroscience and psychology, including Buddhist psychology, including Western psychology, other Indian classical and the psychology and Buddhist psychology. So likewise, we organize exhibitions, festivals, 5-day festivals, which incorporates the panoramic understanding, panoramic showcasing of the Tibetan culture, Tibetan dance, Tibetan paintings, Tibetan medicines, Tibetan astrology, Tibetan philosophy, which would incorporate exhibitions, and then the medical camp organized, and also conferences, lectures, workshops, and so forth. And likewise, we also provide scholarships to the scholars to write books. Initially, we had only one scholarship. In 3 years, one scholarship for an excellent scholar to write a book. And later on, we expanded to 4 scholars in 3 years. So this one thing. And also that for programs, like short-term programs, like 10-day programs and so forth, Tibet again encourages the youngsters, be it Tibetan youngsters or the Indian youngsters, any from school and otherwise as well, to take part in these programs where Tibet House gives scholarship, short-term scholarship for them to take part in these programs. Like the programs organized in Deer Park Institute in Bir, in Himachal Pradesh. They organize beautiful programs, particularly study programs like Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist psychology, emptiness, and so forth. So there we give scholarships to like 30 students, 60 students, and so forth, to allow them to take part in these very important programs. So from this we see that, in a way, Tibet House, if you are to tell me in brief, what does Tibet House here in Delhi do? What's the main program? So that is to promote or to uphold the 4 pillars of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the 4 commitments of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. 1, to promote the human values. Human values. In this regard, all these teachings on compassion, teaching on the wisdom, teaching on how to deal with the emotions, coming from Nalanda Master's course, Nalanda Diploma course, and also the Nalanda Certificate course, and also the programs which are taught in Tibetan language. So they're all meant to promote these human values, number one. Number two, to bring about religious harmony. So as a part of these conferences, lectures, we invite scholars, erudite scholars from the different religious traditions to speak on the philosophy of their particular religion, and also that we have interfaith services being organized. And number three, to promote the Tibetan culture and the Tibetan awareness, to safeguard the Tibetan environment. As the third pillar of His Holiness. So as a part of this, we organize again programs related to the Tibetan culture. For example, this year we're organizing the painting competitions on the theme of which is Tibetan culture. And then finally, to promote the ancient Indian philosophical tradition, particularly the Nalanda tradition, which is extremely rich. And His Holiness, while he is promoting this Nalanda tradition of the philosophy and psychology and so forth, he always discourages centers like Tibet House from converting people into different religions. So this is his major stress and emphasis that by no means Tibet House should be a platform to convert people. So it is, if at all, we have some agenda. The agenda is to convert a person, a short-tempered person, to a kind person, to somebody who is illiterate to a literate, somebody who is, say, the insane to with the sanity, somebody who does not know how to take care of oneself, to take care of one's family, to somebody who is so loving and caring of one's family. So this is the basic agenda. And for those people who are with the sharper faculties, of course we expect them to learn the nuances of the philosophy and psychology of your thinking, to really contribute to the great knowledge of the humanity. So we help people in completing their PhD programs and so forth. So these constitute what Tibet House is for. Tibet House, Delhi, the Cultural Center of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So with this, let us pray that His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the true source of joy and happiness on this earth today, may he lives long and that his wishes be fulfilled spontaneously. For the reason that if His Holiness lives long, that the world can learn from him, the world leaders can learn from him how to have a sentiment of dialogue, how to have the spirit of dialogue, and to incorporate, to be inclusive rather than to be exclusive and to fight and to create more problems in the world. So let us pray, wholeheartedly pray that His Holiness lives long. And if His Holiness lives long, then the great centers to promote human values, to promote the peace, genuine peace, to create the culture of peace, culture of compassion, on the basis of understanding the wisdom of interdependence of each other. So these can be promoted. So this is what Tibet House Delhi is for. Thank you so much, and I welcome each one of you, if not for, say, the very sophisticated, very complicated philosophical studies, but at least to come to make a visit, to pay a visit to Tibet House and have a cup of tea. Thank you, welcome.